Have you ever wondered what it really takes to be an entrepreneur? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and go way beyond the buzzwords. We're breaking down the actual blueprint, the risks, the real rewards, and the personal DNA you need to turn a big idea into a business that actually works.
All right, let's just dive right in. Before we start talking about all the amazing success stories, we need to have a serious reality check. Because, the path of an entrepreneur, it's a huge gamble, and it is almost never as glamorous as it looks on social media.
I mean, this quote, it just hits you, doesn't it? It's from Lloyd Gladstone, one of the co-founders of a company called Prong. And on paper, they had a killer idea, an iPhone case with a charger built right into it. They did everything you're supposed to do. They raised over $3 million, they were on TV, they even got into Best Buy. And then reality set in. Manufacturing nightmares, legal battles, brutal competition. By 2017, the dream was completely over. And look, Prong's story isn't some rare exception. This is the cold, hard statistic every single founder is up against. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says 1 out of every 5 new businesses will fail in their very first year. It's a tough world out there for sure. So if the failure rate is that high, you kind of have to ask, why in the world would anyone do this? What is it that drives someone to take that kind of a risk? Let's get into what really motivates people and who these people actually are. So what do we even mean when we say entrepreneurship? Well, it's the whole journey, right? It's that first little spark of an idea, it's scrambling to pull together the resources, it's putting your own money and your reputation on the line, all for that shot at a big reward. And what's really fascinating is that not all entrepreneurs are cut from the same cloth. They tend to fall into 5 different groups. As I run through these, see if you recognize yourself in any of them. First, you've got the idealists, who are just fired up about creating something new and cool. Then there are the optimizers, who are all about that personal satisfaction of being their own boss. You've got sustainers, who want to build a business that gives them a good work-life balance. Then the classic hard workers, who are dreaming of building a massive empire. And finally, the jugglers, who just get a huge thrill from handling every little thing themselves. And speaking of the people behind these companies, that old classic image of what an entrepreneur looks like, it's changing, and it's changing fast. The whole landscape today is way more diverse and dynamic than it's ever been. This chart just shows that shift so perfectly. Just look at the growth here. If you go back to 1998, immigrants made up less than 14% of new entrepreneurs. But fast forward to 2016, and that number has more than doubled to almost 30%. That's not a small change. That's a massive transformation. Just think about what that really means. It means immigrants are nearly twice as likely as people born here to start a new company. They're bringing totally fresh perspectives, they're spotting opportunities that others might miss, and they are an absolutely powerful engine for the economy. And how about gender? Well, yeah, men still own a majority of small businesses, but women are a huge and growing force in this space. Businesses owned by women now make up almost 36% of the total. We're talking millions of companies, and that number just keeps on climbing. Okay, so we've covered the why and the who. Now, let's get into the nuts and bolts. How does a little idea actually become a real-life business? This is the practical blueprint. The whole journey from idea to launch day really just boils down to 3 crucial steps. First, you've got to find your niche. A real problem out there that people need solved. Then, you have to map out your entire vision in a business plan. And finally, you have to figure out the money side of things, the financing to make it all happen. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A business plan? Ugh, sounds like homework, right? But whatever you do, do not skip this step. There was a study that found entrepreneurs who take the time to write a formal plan are 16% more likely to actually succeed. And why is that? Well, it's because it forces you to think through every single detail before you jump into the deep end. Now, when it comes to getting the money, you basically have 2 main paths. The first is debt financing. Think of it like a mortgage or a car loan. You borrow money and you have to pay it back plus interest. The other path is equity financing. This is more like getting a business partner. You give an investor a slice of your company in exchange for their cash. The good news is you don't have to pay it back, but the catch is you now own less of your own business. So where does the money actually come from for most people? You can forget about those glamorous pitches to billionaires you see on TV. For the vast majority of founders, the reality is way more personal. A whopping 78% use their own personal savings to get things started. And after that, it's credit cards and loans from family, long before any venture capitalists are even returning their calls. But here's the thing. A great idea and a solid financial plan, they're still not enough. there's one more piece of the puzzle that can absolutely make or break a new company: the founder's personality. So let's look at the 6 core traits that seem to be hardwired into the DNA of successful entrepreneurs. First up is autonomy. For so many people, this is the biggest driver of all. It's that deep, powerful need to be your own boss, to call the shots, and to build something exactly the way you think it should be built. Next, you have entrepreneurial sacrifice. And this is all about pure grit. It's that willingness to pour your life savings into an idea, to work all weekend while your friends are out having fun, and to just keep pushing forward when it feels like everything is going wrong.
Number 3 is high energy. And trust me, you are gonna need it. Building a business from scratch isn't a sprint, it's a marathon that never really has a finish line. We're talking about a crazy work ethic. Some studies show 13% of owners work over 80 hours a week. That takes a whole different level of stamina. Then you've got this need to achieve. And this one's interesting. It isn't about chasing some impossible fantasy. It's more of an internal drive to set goals that are really tough, but actually achievable, and then just systematically knocking them down one by one. The real joy is in the climb. Fifth, you have to have rock-solid self-confidence. I mean, you are going to be told no over and over again. So you've got to have that unshakable belief in yourself, that you can figure out the next problem, that you can win over the next customer, and that you can handle whatever crisis is inevitably just around the corner. And finally, there's something called an internal locus of control. It's a bit of a psychological term, but what it really means is that you believe you are in the driver's seat of your own life. When things go well, it's because of your hard work. And when things go wrong, you don't blame the market or bad luck. You own it, and you figure out a way to fix it. So that brings us right back to the blueprint. We've seen the brutal risks, we've seen the deep motivations, and we've seen the core DNA that it takes to be an entrepreneur. I guess the only question left is the one you have to ask yourself. Do you have what it takes?